Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to another tutorial. In this video, we're going to be covering the HSL sliders. So there are a lot of them, but they are not that confusing. They're rather straightforward. I don't think this is going to be a very long video, but we're just going to jump right into it. So our HSL/color sliders, all right, so you can click between these two to get a different view, but they both do the same thing. So under HSL, you can choose to either have all of your sliders present at once, or you can choose between your hue, saturation, and luminance channels individually. Or you can use your color, this is what it looks like on Lightroom Mobile, where you can have your color selectors here, and you have your hue, saturation, and luminance for that specific color all in one place. And there's also this color mixer at the end here, which will give you all the colors with their corresponding sliders. Personally, I like to use the HSL sliders, and I like to keep them on all. The reason for this is I just like to see everything here, but this is completely personal preference whether you like to use the color sliders or the HSL sliders. I know lots of people that just prefer to use the color sliders as it keeps it kind of a little bit more compact, and for smaller screens, I'm currently on a 24-inch screen, but for smaller laptop screens, you might find this to be a little bit easier to use. So let's hop right into it here. We're going to have our HSL sliders. Now at the top, our first section is the hue sliders. So what do these do? We have our separate color channels here, and essentially these will alter the color in terms of hue. So if we grab the red slider and move it towards the orange, it's going to make anything that's red in our scene. This might be a better option here, and it will turn it to orange. As well, if you move it more towards the red, it'll start going past red if it's already red and into the pinks. Now this works for all these separate sliders here, so same with the orange if you want to make it towards the red, or if you want to make it look to more towards the yellow. And each colors correspond with specific colors in your scene. So this one here, like if I move something like aqua, you're really not going to see much of a difference other than in these buildings here, because there really isn't much aqua in the scene. But if I use something like this, you might see a little bit more change in the aqua, as these buildings go more blue when I move it to the right, and they go more cyan when I move it to the left. So you'll notice it a lot in glass buildings. You'll see that'll be in the aqua channel. Now in terms of skin tones, you'll find a lot of skin tones will be in the orange and yellow channel. So sometimes it can be difficult to distinguish the two. Now there is a little trick if you use this button right here. If you click on this and you just drag over your scene, you'll notice on the right side that there is a little highlight over top of which color channel that specific color is in. You can also click on your scene and make adjustments like so. Now personally, I don't like to use this method. I like to use this tool just to determine which channel these colors are in, but I like to do everything manually. So we'll just like something like this, he's yellow, I'd probably make it more orange and get that teal and orange look going. So that's pretty much it for hue. Very straightforward. Use the hue to just dial in specific tones. So a good use of the hue would be, say you want this red car to be more of an orange, or you could change the colors of it that way. Or say you've got specific colors in the sky here. Maybe you want it to be a little bit more like this kind of blue as opposed to pushing it into the purples. So you have those kind of fine-tune adjustments there. Now the next section we have here is our saturation slope. So this is just like our hue, except each color channel is going to have its own 0 to 100 saturation, or negative 100 to 100 saturation. So if we grab our blues and we saturate it, it's going to do exactly that. If we rip them out, it's going to look black and white. So this image here looks like almost everything is inside this blue channel, aside from the skin tones, which are probably in the yellow channel. Nope. They are actually in our orange channel. You can see it here. And you can see that there is a tiny bit here that's probably in the red channel. Yeah, so you can just see a little bit of the skin tones here are actually in the red channel. So we can just adjust those accordingly. And you can play with these saturation sliders to just kind of bring in and dial in that moody tones that people have on their photos, you'll actually notice that most of the difference when you're editing a photo will come when you start messing with the saturation sliders. So once you do this, as well as add some tone curve, and then you come down here and start adjusting the areas of your image that are too saturated. So something like this, which already has some tone curve information as well as basic adjustments. What I'd want to do is maybe bring back a little bit of the color that's in these bricks. I think they're a little saturated. So we can come in here and reduce our yellows just a little bit to about there. We can play with our reds. Our red is affecting mainly up here. We're just going to dial it down because if you have it up like this, it's just going to pop out and be rather annoying, sort of. Kind of a, what's the word I'm looking for? Anyways, so you also see it in her hands here. She's got the red will bring out some of the redness in her hands. So we're just going to dial that back. Now, something that I like to do personally is once I kind of get a general spectrum here, so we're going to be dialing these back to our 30s, I'll usually do the same thing for all the sliders just to bring them all into that sort of same tonality in terms of saturation, instead of having like things desaturated and then just one thing randomly saturated. I don't think that looks very good. So I just try and keep them relatively consistent and then make the fine-tune adjustments to the specific colors that need it. So that would literally be it for this specific image here. Say I wanted to adjust some of these colors, you can go in and you can make those bricks in the back more orange, or you can make them more red, but you have to be careful because you can notice that on her cheek here is actually being controlled by this red value as well, and her lips. So adjusting this too much will actually adjust these areas as well, and that's not what we're looking for. So how would you do the area just back here? The best way to do it would be to actually mask it out, and we'll be going over that in a future video where I cover all these tools here. So next we have our luminance, so our last section here. Our luminance is essentially the brightness of each color. So if we move the red up, we're going to notice that it's going to brighten the areas that are red. Same if we do it with the orange, you'll notice it will brighten up everything that's in the orange channel. Again, we have our tool here if you're not sure which color is being affected. But normally with the luminance, I would do these rather subtly, so I wouldn't really be ripping out colors, especially if you plan on porting a preset over to mobile. If you rip out the colors, it will ruin a mobile photo because those don't have the full HDR spectrum that a Sony file or a Canon CR3 file will have. So I usually just like to do it a little bit, like, say it's kind of bright here, you can kind of come into the oranges and just tone that back just a little bit to bring back some of the detail. And you can kind of push and pull these values with things like your highlights and your whites to just kind of dial in the colors and the overall look and feel that you specifically want in your image. So that is pretty much it for the HSL sliders. Again, you can swap between these. We got our color, and you'll notice that our blues have their own specific values here that are very similar to, they are exactly the same to what we did here. It's just isolating the channel. So I hope this helped you guys, and I will catch you in the next video where we're going to be going over color grading.